on from the classification of the flow description as Eulerian and Lagrangian, and then seeing that we will use the Lagrangian description of fluid flow more in this course. It's a field description. And then we go on to the concept where we think of the velocity field, and I told you it depends on space. Okay. So we think of the velocity field and it depends on space. So I'm writing V as a function of space and time. And I do know that x, y, z, they are used as descriptions of directions in Cartesian coordinates. I can also use r, theta, z, which is cylindrical coordinates, r, theta, phi, which is spherical coordinates. They are sometimes called cylindrical polar and spherical polar coordinates. Now the question is, for a given fluid flow, how many variables do you need to describe that flow? You can easily think of spatial dimension as 1D, 2D and 3D, which is one-dimensional, two-dimensional and three-dimensional. But everything in this world is really three-dimensional. But the question is, how many variables do you need, or how many spatial variables do you need to describe a fluid flow? So one-dimensional flow is that requires one spatial dimension, and obviously two-dimensional flow would mean 2 and three-dimensional flow would mean 3. Okay. Now think, for example, if you have a pipe flow, okay, and then if you have a velocity profile, that you will see later that this velocity profile is parabolic. By that what we mean is, if this is your z direction, this is your r direction, the velocity along z is equal to a constant like u naught times 1 minus r over the radius squared. Okay, the flow is purely axial, meaning the flow takes place only along the axis, which means the radial component of the flow and the polar component of the flow are 0. That is, if you think of a pipe, the flow goes in parallel layers along the axis. There is no flow in the radial direction and there is no flow in the polar or azimuthal direction. So you have two components of the velocity being 0, okay, and that component of the velocity which is non-zero is described by only one spatial coordinate. So if you have to write the velocity field for this flow, this would be the velocity component along the radial direction plus the velocity component along the polar direction plus the velocity component along the axial direction. By calling it purely axial, we reason that these two are 0, okay, and that the velocity field is equal to Vz, which is u naught times 1 minus r squared over r squared times the unit vector in the z direction. So this would be Ez, this would be Er, and I am not drawing the polar direction here. I would need to draw the front view, which is, here is Er and here is E theta. Obviously the flow velocity, like tangential to the pipe, is 0, it's an axial flow. So I have this velocity here, which is really only a function of r. So even though this is pipe flow, you have a fluid going through along with a parabolic velocity profile, in reality this is simply a one-dimensional flow. It's a one-dimensional flow. That is, you have only one variable to describe the fluid flow. That's what you would call as a one-dimensional flow. Now suppose you take another example. Suppose you take as another example a uniform flow, okay, something like wind that's blowing. I am calling this uniform flow, and there are no surfaces nearby. You have wind that's just blowing, maybe it's in the upper atmosphere or an open field away from the ground. You have a uniform flow that is just flowing, and you have a velocity u naught that is the same for the entire volume. Suppose this is a large volume that spans like several football fields. The velocity u naught of the wind is a constant as a function of both space in this direction and in this direction, and for some time. Let's say the wind lasts for like several days. Within those several days, it's a constant. So this would be an example of flow that requires, it's just u naught, and it's not a function of space. What would that make this flow? You don't require any spatial dimensions to describe this, and this you can call as a zero-dimensional flow. It's called a zero-dimensional flow. It has no spatial dependence. No spatial dependence. Okay. Now, the same flow, the external flow that's uniform, it's not near any surface. Let's suppose it approaches a windmill or some structure that is in the form of a sphere. Suppose the flow approaches a sphere. Far away from the sphere, this is a zero-dimensional flow. Okay. When it is very close to the sphere, if you consider points that are about here, you can resolve this velocity into two directions, an x component and a y component. You can do it either by Cartesian, or you can have a velocity that is resolved. You can have a velocity that is resolved along or normal to the sphere and tangential to the sphere. Tangential component and normal component. So in this case you would have two velocity components that depend on both the location, the radial location r, and the angular location theta. It will depend on both the radial location r and the angular location theta. So you can say the velocity field depends on both r and theta. Okay. This will be an example of a two-dimensional flow. Two-dimensional flow. You could also have flows that depend on all three spatial variables. Like for example, the same flow, if it takes place at higher speed, we'll see about this later in the course, but at higher speed you could have the formation or the creation of turbulence in the flow. Turbulence is random chaotic motion that varies from point to point. That is, turbulence is typically higher in the downstream region than in the upstream region. So you will have both x and y dependence or r and theta dependence, but also a dependence that is in front of the sphere or upstream of the sphere and downstream of the sphere. So you would typically need three variables to describe this flow, and a common example three-dimensional flow is fully developed turbulent flow. So that is the classification of 1, 2, 3D flows along with 0 dimensions. Spatial classification. Spatial classification. Okay. Now, moving beyond spatial classification, I told you that the velocity field depends on both space and time. Okay, both space and time. If your velocity is constant with time, if you take any particular point, I'll call it P, X naught, and Y naught, and Z naught. That is, I'm having a magical probe that is able to print the velocity at a particular coordinate. And if I find out that the velocity at that coordinate is constant, okay, what I can say about the velocity is the velocity is independent of time, or this is a steady flow, steady at that point. The velocity is independent of time, that implies steady, or steady implies it's independent of time. Instead of being steady or constant with time, if the velocity changes, in some random way or in some periodic or known way, okay, so if the velocity is a function of time, it can either be random or known or deterministic. That is, it changes in a known way or just randomly. It can take all kinds of values like fluctuations, like this common example is turbulent flow, turbulence, and known or deterministic or oscillatory flow or periodic flow is called oscillatory. Waves fall under the classification of deterministic flows. You have a specific variation of the velocity. Sound is a wave. The velocity increases, decreases, increases, decreases. That would be deterministic flow. In either case, if the time derivative is not zero or if the velocity changes with time, we would call it an unsteady flow. Unsteady. So that's the big classification based on time. So spatially 1D, 2D, 3D, and temporal classification. You have steady, which is the time derivative is 0, and you have unsteady, where the time derivative is non-zero. Time derivative is non-zero. Okay. So that wraps up our classification of fluid flow. We'll just summarize here quickly. You start with your velocity field, okay, V of x, y, z, t. Okay, this velocity field can be expressed as Eulerian versus Lagrangian. Eulerian would be the control volume approach, and Lagrangian would be the control system approach. Eulerian would be the field approach, and Lagrangian would be the particle approach. Okay, that's our first classification that we saw. The second classification that we saw is 1D. Actually, I should start with 0, 1D, 2D, 3D. Depending on how many variables it is that you need to describe a fluid flow. that we saw is based on steady and unsteady. So steady flows are those in which the velocity is independent of time. It can still depend on space. And then you can have unsteady flows in which the velocity obviously depends on time. It could be random, like in the case of turbulence, or it could be oscillatory, in the case of waves, or periodic motion, or decaying motion. We don't say decaying, I'll say damped motion. Viscous damping, okay, viscous damping or damped motion. So those are the big classifications of fluid flow.